How's it going, everybody? This is Kyle from the UA Playbook coming at you with a deck profile of the Red JuJutsu Kaisen's Volume 2 Red Sorcerer deck. With that being said, let's get right into the deck profile. Alrighty, starting things off with the zeros, you're running 4 of the Snowbara. She's a 0-drop 2K that has an active trigger to give something plus 3K and restand it. And it produces you 1 energy. So, kind of good seeing a 0-drop with 2K. It's kind of weird for some situations. But yes, I mean, typically we're seeing 0 drops with only 1500. Then you run 4 of this Yuji Itadori. Yuji Itadori is a 15,000 0-drop, produces you 1 energy, and then it has a trigger to add to one hand. Then you run 2 of this Megami. When played, you get the draw card and sideline a card from your hand. Pretty typical of a lot of cards that I've been seeing and what I've been running in my decks, just a 2 of. But it also has a trigger to draw a card. So that is it for the zeros. Moving on to the 1-drops, you run 4 of this Nobara. What she states is, when played, choose the one other JuJutsu Sorcerer affinity card in your field that gets plus 500 until the end of the turn. If there are 2 or more other characters with 4,000 more BP in your opponent's front line, it gains 1,500 instead. So you can just make things get bigger, depending on what time frames when you slam this Snowbara down. Regardless, it's going to get 500, and depending on the game state, it's going to get 1,500. And it does produce you 1 energy, has no trigger though. Next up, we're going on to the 2-drops. You run 4 of this Yuji Itadori, or 3 of this Yuji Itadori, my bad. You could run 4, it's been contemplated to go to 4, so yes. So that's Step and Nullify Impact, and it's a 3K body that produces you 1 energy. Pretty freaking good, having Nullify Impact with Step on a 3K stick. Pretty good. And it only comes down as a 2-drop, so you can put them out pretty early on. Next up, you run 3 of this Togi. Basically comes down, and it's a 2-drop. And it produces you an extra energy when he restands. No trigger, but still fantastic. Being able to go from 3 to 5 is pretty nice. And depending on circumstances, even higher. So, kind of nice, kind of nice. Moving on to the 3-drops of the deck, you run 4 of the color trigger, Yuji Itadori. What he states is, active main, if on front line, once per turn, this character gains all abilities listed until the end of turn. If your opponent has the required number of characters with 4,000 BP or more on the front line. 2 or more, he gains plus 1,000, so it becomes from a 3,000 to a 4,000. 4 or more, it gets also impact 1, so it becomes a 4K impact 1 if there's 4 more other characters in your opponent's front line with 4,000 BP or more. His color trigger states, choose one character with 2,500 or less BP in your opponent's front line and sideline it, and it does produce you 2 energy in the back line. So I think it's it's nifty. I mean, I wish it would have said 35, but hey, it's pretty good for the trigger. Next up, you run 4 of the Raid Yuji Itadori. This card's very nifty, very, very, very nifty, and there's some key wordings that you got to understand with this card. So it says, when attacking, once per turn, if you get 3 or more other JuJutsu Sorcerer affinity cards in your field, choose one of the following. You can either give him plus impact, or you may reduce this character's BP by 2,000 until end of turn and switch to active. So you can swing with him for 2K, restand, and then swing another 2K. So you're going to get multiple attacks off of this most of the time. There's been situations where I have given him impact, but I think he's just mainly there for the 2K swings. But you can give him impact and push for the game with him. It's happened a couple times. Very good card. Very, very good card. In fact, it's almost like a kill on sight card. Next up, you run 4 of the Snowbara. So what the Snowbara states, it's a raid. Draw a card and place 1 card from your hand to your sideline. If you place a JuJutsu Sorcerer affinity card into your sideline with this ability, choose 1 character in your opponent's front line with the same required energy amount or base BP as this card. It loses 3,000 as that card, not this card. It loses 3,000 BP until the front end of the turn. So in combination with the Yuji, you could basically swing in or force on the block and lose bodies on field. Kind of nice, kind of nice. And that has another effect, activate main. Place 1 card from your hand to your sideline, choose the 1 JJK Sorcerer affinity card on your field. It gets plus 500 until end of turn. So you can basically make this Yuji, if you have a combination of that, back up to 3K double swings. So yeah, it's kind of nice. Kind of nice. Next up, I'm running 4 of this Gojo, or 3 of this Gojo, not 4. So he's a 4-drop 2 action. Comes into play active, and then he has damage too. But at the end of your opponent's attack phase, place this character into your removal area. So he's a 5k that can block, and then at the end of their attack phase, he goes to the removal area, but also he can do damage too. And also has a draw trigger. I really like him. I used to run 2, and I bumped him up to 3. I wish I could find room for the 4th. Then we run 2 of this Gojo. 5/1, 5,000. He has Impact 1 at the end of your opponent's attack phase. So there are 2 or more other characters with 4,000 or more BP or Ghetto on their opponent's front line. Place this card in the removal area and look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You're able to choose JuJutsu Sorcerer affinity cards other than Gojo. Add them to your hand, then place the remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order. So he can just stay out there for turns. I mean, it's not the most ideal. He's there in situations, and if he gets to live, he's going to get you so much value off of him. Very good value piece, as well as finding new cards that you're going to need to continue on if that effect were to trigger off. For 5 drops of the deck, I'm running for Mei. It states 4,000 plus BP, and then it states damage 2, then during your turn it becomes a 5k. So she can swing repetitively for 5k damage 2. Kind of fun. So it's like another kill on sight card. Similar to how like the Yuji is kind of kill on sight because of the value that she can present you, and as well as the Yuji what he can present you. Alrighty, that's it for the characters. Let's move on to the events. You're running 4 of the special Black Flash. So this card is very, very interesting. Yes, it's 4/2 AP. Costs 4 energy, 2 AP to play it. But I think it's very interesting. Because if you have Yuji Itadori in your hand, its AP requirement goes down by 1. So instead of paying 2 action points, you're only paying 1 action point. Then you get to choose 1 character with 5,000 or less on your 5,000 or less BP on your opponent's front line and silent. And then if there are 2 or more other characters with 4,000 BP on your opponent's front line, choose the 1 JuJutsu Sorcerer affinity card with 4,000 or more BP on your field against 2,000 until end of turn. So essentially what you can do with that is if you have the rateable Yuji Itadori right here, you could make him swing for 4k twice with this card. Potentially. Not always, but sometimes. And it also removes a 5k from the field for you. Then, the last card of the deck is your 4 final. So there are a few cards that some people are trying out that I have cut, and I will get into that real quick. So, with that being said, I brought up the fact that there's some cards that I have cut from my list that a lot of people are playing. So one of the cards that I was playing originally in the deck was Mini Mechamaru. I see the appeal with it. However, though, like I'd rather be more aggro and being able to get more swings in versus okay. So what the card states is if a deck it can only have 3 of it in your deck first and foremost. So that's a hindrance in itself. And it's a 5-drop, and so it's kind of like okay, you're gonna have to be on 5 energy to play it. But I mean, if you have a Gojo in your removal area, it's reduced by 3, so it only costs you 2 to play it. You only need 2 energy to play it down, which is kind of nice. And then you get to draw a card and play up the 2 JuJutsu Sorcerer, 3 or less energy required and 1 AP from your hand set to resting in your field. So the downside of the card is you gotta have to have a Gojo in your removal area, as well as or have 5 and have the cards in your hand to play them down, and as well as the simple fact that they just don't come into play active. That is why I solely cut them from the deck and focused more on like the Meimeis and the extra Gojos, things like that in the list, so that I could actually have a aggressive turn versus maybe I'll get an aggressive turn. So yeah, that's my thoughts and opinions. I think it's very much so a slept-on deck, and if you're not ready for an early aggression strategized deck, you might have a struggle with it. But yep, until next time, please like, comment, and subscribe, and be safe.